All right, welcome everyone. Today, this is Core Devs meeting number 43. Today is Thursday, May 19th, 2022. We have a relatively small agenda today, so plenty of time to talk about any issues, bugs, whatever it is that you'd like to bring up ad hoc. But as always, we will go through updates from each of the implementation teams, as well as from the Filecoin Foundation, touch on the latest status of the version 16 network upgrade, and then again, we'll move into that open discussion in case you have any topics you'd like to bring to the rest of the group. To kick it off, Forest team, you want to share your updates with us?
David, you're muted.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm never sure how to share the updates. I think like sometimes some of the updates you get are from like previous Coredev meetings, but anyhow, so the last 2 weeks we have been working very hard together with Wyatt from the Lotus team or FVM team on porting the Go actor test over into Rust. And we have written like hundreds and hundreds of tests and found a few mismatches between the Rust actors and the Go actors, which is great. And that work is still ongoing. Hopefully we are like very close to being like having a complete port of all the tests. And it should be no more than 2 weeks, hopefully. Yeah, and that is about all. We have been writing lots of tests and doing pretty much nothing else.
Good. As a quick question from me, you're right, these are older updates. I've still been pulling them from the Forest team wiki. And I saw your update this morning about all of the testing that you're doing. I guess, Lee, do you want me to keep pulling them from the wiki, or should I just keep asking in Slack? What's easiest for you guys?
Yeah, so the wiki is more like on a quarterly basis that we're maintaining at the moment. So I think cool. For bi-weekly is the Slack updates. You can just use the one from Slack.
All right, then be on the lookout for my continued tagging. Okay, thanks.
Cool.
Any questions, I guess, for the Forest team then?
Not a question, but I just want to say a very big and very public thank you to your entire team for all of these tests. I know Zen and me to a lesser extent have been overwhelmed, but we've been overwhelmed by having to review all of your work, which is a great problem to have. Yeah, I think this is just it's a really, really massive good for the network that you folks are giving so much momentum to. So thank you very much. This is critical work that will benefit Filecoin.
Yeah, and on the foundation side, we're working with your biz dev team also to make sure that we are providing you as many resources as we can to help you continue with this work. We know that it's a lot of asks all the time, and we want to be able to make sure that you can do these unencumbered by logistical issues, capacity, etc. So, all right, I guess then we can throw it over to the Lotus team. Any updates?
Yeah, I can give a quick update. I think Jennifer already a lot, as you can imagine, a lot of our work is kind of very closely with the FVM team, and I know that we have an FVM update coming up from Jennifer. But from our end, just quick release numbers as always. We shipped 1.15.2 and started testing 1.15.3 right now. One thing that I do want to call out is we were experiencing quite a few reports of the Lotus nodes having sync issues, just falling out of sync or starting to slow down. It's not clear what caused them to kind of start to happen more frequently than before, because the first issue dates back to 2021. But we did investigate and fix a deadlock in the message pool, which was ultimately bubbling up to causing sync issues itself. So that's in the 1.15.3 RC. It'll be in the public release in a week or so. But if anyone does notice, anyone running Lotus nodes, if you are experiencing degraded sync issues or just general performance slowdowns, the 1.15.3 RC may help you out there. Apart from that, yeah, continuing to kind of sprint towards the network v16 effort, which involves integrating the FVM, testing built-in actors, and reviewing those PRs. Some proofs work I think has been happening as well, which we'll be integrating into v16. So yeah.
Any questions for the Lotus team? All right, thank you, Aush. It's for the Venus team. As before, the Venus team is not quite so heads down on the FVM, but they are on track to sync in CalibNet in the coming weeks when we get there. For the most part, they continue to work on usability enhancements to Venus Market, mostly, and Venus Cluster additionally, especially around just simple marketplace operations, as well as the Venus Sealer. If you have any questions for the Venus team, I'd be happy to transmit them for you. But also a reminder that Stephen and the rest of their team are also pretty responsive in the Venus announcements tab on Slack. So you're always welcome to check in there as well. All right. Any questions for anyone before we move on? All right. Parth, do you want to give us a quick security update?
Yeah, sure. So fortunately, a couple of reports were resolved and were paid. And a couple of reports are also in progress to get paid. And also, like as I told last time, the Hall of Fame page is we have built the Hall of Fame page. So I'm working with Ishan for design and the content. I'm yet to confirm the content with Jennifer first. So first I'll talk with her, and if she approves, I'll send it to Ishan, and it will be get done by the next time we meet, hopefully.
All right, thank you, Parth. On the flip side, lots of things ongoing at the moment. And also thank you for all of your patience. I was out at a conference and I got COVID, so I've been on sort of a reduced work schedule for the past couple of weeks. But most importantly, as we all know, all 3 of the FVM FIPS are currently in last call status. So thank you so much to everyone who is not only working very hard, but also very communicative as final gas testing parameters were concluded, as final additions were pushed into those documents. They look really great, and the last call period has been really quiet so far, which is a good thing. No one has big concerns or questions. I've already spoken with the storage provider groups. Sometimes they arrive with some last minute things that they'd like to discuss, and this time it's been smooth sailing. We also recently had, I think Raul and Jennifer helped to coordinate an additional review on the gas parameter changes with the Crypto Econ Lab. Which is great. They took a look at it. A couple of sort of flags around the batch balancer changes that we may see, but no concerns. And so nothing that we would expect to slow down that last call process. So all of this just means that as of the end of next Monday, we expect these FIPS to be completely accepted. There are no other outstanding logistical or governance hurdles that would sort of slow this down. And so really we're entering kind of the final lap on the FVM FIPS. Other than that, as you all know, we have 2 accepted FIPS currently. Hopefully we can sort of schedule an interim sort of quieter upgrade after V16, hopefully put those onto the network. But that's sort of a future consideration. We have a couple of open drafts, but nothing that is new for any of you to take a look at. And do know that in the coming days, I'm going to push some new documentation about how we handle new FIPS standards. So sort of like a Filecoin request for comment. That's probably how we're going to handle the Ask V2 protocol that was presented 2 meetings ago. But other than that, any questions from anyone? Take a look at the chat too. No more FIPS. Thank you, Lee. All right, then I think we're good. We are good. We know we're good. We're doing great. All right. Well, then let's keep going and sort of have an open conversation then about our favorite topic, the Skyr Network V16 upgrade. And I am just going to open the floor to you all. If you have any topics, questions, concerns, flags, or compliments you'd like to deliver about the pending upgrade, now is the time. Jennifer?
Sorry. I think there's something a little bit like off on the tentative timeline around like butterfly net upgrade, but basically as like Kitty was suggesting that all the FIPS are in either accepted or in last call, and Raw just announced the big news this morning that we are feature freeze of our VM. I'm gonna let him to speak more on to that. Like later, I'll give us everyone an update. But given that FVM is in feature freeze and we have already implemented all the FIPS into built-in actor with like from both like Lotus and Forest teams like effort, I think it's very close to say Lotus will be ready to release the first RC within 2 weeks. So it's not like in June 2nd. It's actually we are expecting an RC very soon and upgrading the butterfly so that the community can join the testing and to make it very clear, everything we are saying today, like RC1 is going to be the feature freeze for all the repository, that including reference kind implementation, Lotus, RefVM, and built-in actor. We are expecting to have more RCs and changing code to incorporating all the bug fixes being discovered in the next couple weeks, as Forest and San is wrapping up on the built-in actor test coverage rally effort. They are finding critical bugs, consensus bugs. We are fixing it. We're expecting to discover more. So like during the whole butterfly testing process. So I would say, I think I'm comfortable to commit to a butterfly upgrade sometime like next week, because like we can use this week to testing on Caterpillar before we involve the community. But sometimes next week we can start testing, and maybe based on the testing results, it's gonna take like 2 to 3 weeks before we upgrade to calibration upgrade. We do want to do code freeze before upgrading to calibration. So we expect, external audit, internal audit, test coverage ready to be wrapping up before we upgrading our calibration, and then we will be testing there for like 2 to 3 weeks before we fully launch our mainnet. So I would say starting on the first butterfly upgrade, we are looking at 5 to 6 weeks between butterfly and mainnet, and passing to Rao to give us a great update on RefVM.
All right, so it's here, finally here. We have called development freeze as of this morning. It has been in the making for quite some time. The last minute changes that went into this were tons and tons and tons of cleanup in general, and a bunch of final syscall changes that we wanna make, because we're very conscious that the API of the syscalls that go into mainnet now are essentially going to ossify in the protocol forever. So if anybody wants to in the future sync the chain from Skyr onwards, they will need to have an FVM that is able to serve that is exposing the same API of the syscalls as we have now. So we wanted to make sure that those were clean, and any considerations that we had around cleaning up kind of like the way that pointers were used, the way that CIDs were addressed, and how like the safety of memory addressing and a bunch of other things, and also error numbers that syscalls were returning, making sure that those were properly structured and that were clear as well, and properly documented. We wanted to make sure kind of like do just a sanity check on everything to make sure that we're ready to ossify, which is a very weird thing to say, right? So this is basically much of what went into kind of like this last few days of the development freeze. We have released FVM 100 RC1 and the SDK 100 RC1 as well. So these are kind of like the two kind of like public entry points to for actors and for implementations. So we're there finally. This also, I think this version numbering also aligns with kind of like the development roadmap of the FVM, where we have milestone 1. So FVM 1 is the one that implements milestone 1. So it's a lot more consistent than what we had before, where FVM was version 0 for milestone 1. And yeah, right now we're doing the work of integrating into built-in actors, and built-in actors needs to be integrated back into the conformance tests, and also integrating into Filecoin FFI. These are the last two things left from the release process of the development freeze, but we're there basically as of this point. For M1, we're going into bug fix mode. There are still several audits ongoing, both internal and external. So we do expect some findings to come out of there. There have been a few small findings that we've already been implemented from the external audits. So anything that has been found up until now has already been fixed. So in the last 3 weeks of the external audit, if there are any more findings that will come in as bug fixes, we expect that any of these will come before the calibration net upgrade. So any bug fixes. So the version that goes into calibration net should be the final version. That is the candidate for hitting mainnet, unless we of course encounter something else in calibration net. And yeah, besides that, there is the built-in actors testing effort that is obviously continuing with the ChainSafe guys and Wyatt and a bunch of others really doing an amazing job there in discovering things. So we do expect that any more discoveries will come before calibration net and will be integrated in that final candidate release. So that's the update from my end. Thanks a lot for bearing with this process and for bearing with kind of like the many changes along the way. It has been super exciting to work on this, and yeah, we're hoping to see it soon in mainnet, and we're also shifting focus to M2 as of these days. So basically, never stopping here.
I just kind of want to. Sorry, we are having an audio issue here. I'm actually at a usual place. Oh my God, David is here. How is the dog? Oh, sorry, this call is being recorded, but it's important. We should discuss this.
The dog is fine. Everything has been handled.
So good. Okay, cool. I'm sorry. I just want to jump in and say, y'all yes, thanking everyone for working on this, supporting FVM team, but I want to give a huge round of applause to FVM team and to Raul personally, how hard he is working, basically taking care of everything, being the tech lead, PMs, designing swag, organizing hack weeks, managing all the FVM Foundry, bug bounties, everything is I don't know how he does that. And I think everyone can say that FVM is so critical for the Filecoin network. It's the project for the year, and a lot of effort has been put into that. And I'm so glad that a lot of team are working towards the same goal right now in the Filecoin ecosystem and community. And I just think it's it's a big moment. And thank you so much for everything. And keep us on track and give us guidance in general.
I mean,
yeah.
It's customary for me to thank you in exchange and thank everybody in this call in exchange, but it is true. I mean, this is it's a team effort. It's not me, absolutely. So definitely thanks a lot for that mention, but hats off to all of you. And especially to Step, who's not in this call as well, who's been kind of my partner in crime since the beginning of early times of the FVM, and it's been super fun to ship this together.
Yes, there.
Yeah, cool.
All right. Well, also, thank you, Raul, for joining this meeting once again and giving what was an excellent, efficient update also. Does anyone have any other questions? I do want to note also a little forward looking, but Jennifer and I were also talking about this last night, and to reconfirm, this has been such a big network upgrade and it's required so much of everyone, as we know. After this, of course, we're going to do a dedicated retro session just to sort of talk through sort of this experience, planning challenges, etc. Gather your feedback. We can also do this anonymously if you'd prefer, and just want to make sure that we've heard everybody's sort of needs prior to beginning to think about that M2. So as we look to the next milestone that's going to need to be implemented, it's probably going to be a big lift in certain ways also, and we want to make sure that everyone is prepared and on the same page. So look to that in a couple of weeks. All right. Otherwise, we have no other standing agenda items. Is there anything anyone would like to discuss before we end the meeting today?
Yes, I do want to propose that we start to talk about what is the next network upgrade gonna be. Maybe in the next core dev call, because I know that FVM team or the FVM working group is gonna start to kick off planning on M2. However, for me, this is my personal opinion. I haven't even talked to the Lotus team yet. For me personally, I think it may make sense for us as a implementers of the Filecoin network to consider maybe before launching another huge upgrade of FVM M2, maybe we can do incremental small network upgrades to test a couple of things out, including implementing very small fibs like the beneficiary, for example, that's in the queue, just to see how we will be, because we're introducing if new VM, new actors, the upgrade process is changing as everything is now CID, context address, all those things. It will be good if we do a small upgrade just to make sure we have the new upgrade process in place. For example, whenever we have a new proof release, we will have to do the trusted setup and making sure everyone fetch the new parameters, proof parameters. We now have to do the same to make sure everyone fetch the new bundles for the actors. So I think it makes sense to do a very small network upgrade just for the whole community to practice that, practice that and get used to the right flow into that. And then we can maybe in the same, I kind of call it maybe FVM 1.5. I don't know if we all agree. Maybe you can even introduce some things that we know that can be really good in FVM, but we don't think it's within the scope for M1, but also it can be pre-M2. Thing is we can introduce some guest optimization, things like that, which also require a network upgrade. Maybe we can do a small one that to introduce those factors before we launch the big network upgrade to refactor all the system actor, or we launching FVM M2. So that is what I am thinking. And because it's a small network upgrade, I do expect less dev resources is needed, because after we starting testing M1 in the test network, basically dev implementation teams can start working on next things in parallel, right? So I'm thinking maybe something around late July or early mid-August, a very small network upgrade just to practice things. This is what I am thinking. Literally just this morning, I want to propose that to the other implementer team and see if you guys agree with that. And then maybe in 2 weeks, we can scoping out the scope together with VM team, protocol development team, Lotus, Forest, Venus, and everyone together. Wondering how everyone feels about that.
Yeah, I think we can definitely start discussing. I think it's a good idea to get head start. I think one of the things that I would like to point out is that after the network upgrade and the testing, I think our forest focus should be getting in sync with the network upgrade. So probably that's going to be the next immediate focus for us, and then we can move towards other things.
Yeah, I'll chime in just to say I broadly agree with Jennifer. I think there's a few, at least in my mind, open questions about M2 in terms of essentially how much work needs to happen, and so when it might be landing. But I'm sure there's lots of. I've not been paying attention to new fibs that have been opened, for instance. So my guess is there's probably a lot of cool ideas that are that we don't want to block too long on. To Lee's point about us needing to obviously you folks have switched to focusing on this and kind of leaving Forest itself behind, so there's some catch-up time to happen there. So one thing we could do is focus or almost exclusively consider FIPS where all of the work happens in the built-in actors repo itself, so that the actual client implementation, client side of things is just integrate the new actors and you're good to go. That might be one way in which we can have an interesting upgrade without putting too much work on the various implementations, because we have some catching up to do. I think it's a good time to start that conversation. We can maybe try to scope it for our next core devs call.
Something that we can do, I can't commit that we'll be able to do it by the next core devs call, is to scope out potentially some of those things that are incremental improvements to FVM that would be prior to enabling upgradability, and we can mark those. And we can, like, if there is enough, if we see there is like a considerable, batch of things that would make sense to ship, then we can take it up and decide if we want to batch those into a FIP and consider it for inclusion for that intermediate network release. I would also suggest that you loop in Alex North into this conversation, because he had done a bunch of prior work on extending the programmability of actors, and that is 100% a candidate of stuff that we would want to land on the network before programmability lands. So maybe there is like some parts of that can be scoped for this intermediate network upgrade.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So like I also want to emphasize, reiterate, is like we don't have, the network doesn't have to be big, even if small things like matters, because like my main proposal will be, my main intention will be allowing the community and just like to practice how to upgrade in this new setup. I think it's very important, as like any changes in the actor, or like, some changes in the FVM will need a network upgrade from now on. The community should be expecting they have to be more responsive to support changes so that the network is more resilient and like, for all those reasons. But yeah.
All right, so I think what we'll do for the next meeting also, I will capture, or Jennifer, if you want to, we can figure it out. We should capture some of these preliminary thoughts and preferences in the V17 async notes in the TPM repo. And for the meeting that we have in 2 weeks, which will be Core Devs 44 in the beginning of June, all of these sort of stakeholders who don't always attend this meeting, I will proactively ask that they do. So Alex North, of course, aside from the FIP that Raul mentioned, he has a couple of other FIPs pending that are quite large and are not going to be, I think, appropriate for the upgrade that we're discussing, but I think it's important that he participates in these conversations also. I want a representative from the Crypto Econ Lab to come too, since they're going to be monitoring some of the gas changes as we introduce M1 and prepare for M2. And I also think more broadly, if there are other researchers or folks who regularly submit FIPs who want to come and just sort of share their feedback and ideas, it might be helpful. There's a lot of low-hanging FIP fruit that, yeah, it can be easily addressed just in actors and should be relatively easy not only to draft, but also to implement. These are things which exist mostly just in discussion posts right now, and with a little bit of focus, we could get a couple of interesting drafts that add some usability improvements, aren't that big of a deal, but might be nice for community members. So we can talk about all of these items next week, and I'll add them into the agenda today so that we have a record of them. Yeah, Jennifer's question, if there's any community FIPs. There's no drafts right now, except one was pushed this morning and I haven't been able to read it yet. We do have sort of an unfinished draft from Brenda on the ASCII2 protocol. We also have the indexer advertisement protocol. I think both of these might just be standards, which would be a new FIP type that we'll introduce. So not a lot of work to do there, and certainly not something that we would have to coordinate around a network upgrade. But there have been a couple of questions around sort of lending opportunities, collateral changes, stuff for Filecoin Plus. Again, ideas that haven't been fully fleshed out, but they seem to reflect real needs. And so again, I think if we knew that we had space to do a couple of like more simple FIPs as part of an upgrade, we could just put a little bit of attention and focus on actually drafting these into something a little bit more cohesive. So there's no immediate ask from the community, but there are options.
You actually bring off a very good point. Is like why you mentioned the ASK protocol. So I actually do want to discuss with the rest of the team here. Is like, do you guys think like Filecoin market protocol should be a part of the standard or the FIP or like be included in the FIP process, because like as many of you have maybe already noticed, we have a team in PLN called like Boost team. They have been working really hard working on this amazing like software called Boost that is like improving deal making progress, and we are suggesting Lotus users to eventually switch into Boost as their go-to market software. The thing with Boost is they are actually developing a new GoFuel market, like a market protocol version 2 as well. So right now in the network, we are running a GoFuel market for both storage market and retrieval market. However, Boost has been making huge improvement like into storage protocol and like for like Go data transfer as well. So they're actually implementing a new protocol while implementing the reference implementation. And I just don't know if that's something probably should be standardized in the Filecoin market. Basically, it's not consensus breaking or anything. However, if we don't have a good standard, it's possible some client implementation cannot make deals with some providers because they are not agreeing on the protocol they have. However, we don't have a good idea like what should we be standardizing here. So it might be good for us to start like discussing about that. The same goes to API standard, because I feel like aligning our API standard is like critical for FVM M2. So we have the interface, we have the same interface for that developers to interact with the Filecoin chain and deploy their user contract and building dApps. So I do think like all the implementations should supporting a common standard of the APIs there. So I don't know how we should progress on this as a team.
Yeah, definitely agree on this one, because I think it will be also a good if we standardize this, and it will help for us to consume the storage and deal making module. I think this could be probably like an application layer standardization rather than a core layer. That's how probably we could potentially do it if there's an agreement on this.
I think so. Just my 2 cents here. I think yes, you probably like we want to standardize on this, because I think we make, maybe sometimes we have the bias of just thinking that material that is eligible for a FIP is only that kind of stuff that actually changes the consensus or affects consensus. But in reality, the Filecoin protocol is made up of many pieces where the chain is one of them and the actors are one of them. And the execution environment, like everything that makes consensus is one of them. But really, like if we weren't able to make deals in the network, then the Filecoin network would like not be very useful. So I think that's like one of the reasons where everything related to like that makes the Filecoin protocol work in its like holistic form, including deal making protocols and DLAS protocols and so on. It should be part of the standard. Another way to think about this is that it's actually part of the spec as well. So anything that alters the spec should come through a FIP that ultimately ends up patching the spec.
So funny enough that like I don't think we actually have market like a up-to-date market spec within the spec.filecoin.io. So I think like maybe right now, because deal making activities is like growing as crazy in the network today, so maybe it makes sense for the foundation to push like, you know, market implementation teams to actually start to specking the things out so that like we can actually work towards that goal. Because like I absolutely agree with y'all that it's critical. If we don't have data in the Filecoin network, what's the storage for, right? So that makes sense. From like PLN side of the things, the team that is working on this is Boost, Bedrock at PLN. And they have a public channel that you can reach out them to. It's just like Boost. So like Caitlin, if you want to reach out to their developers, it's Dirk, and Hantang, who are leading the project. And also Hannah is also working, Hannah and Archie is working on the retrieval side of the things. And the PM is Brenda Lee, who created the Ask protocol FIP, and also their EM right now is Jacob in Filecoin Slack. So maybe those are the good people to reach out to and like coordinate on that.
Yeah, that's really helpful. So thank you. And I'm going to follow up to get their handles too, so I can talk with them. I've spoken with the Boost team before, but not consistently. And I think this conversation is very helpful, but also fortuitous. Pushing some kind of documentation for feedback related to how we actually implement any kind of comment process or standards. There's like the actual classification of what this looks like and at what level we're standardizing, of course, but then also how do we make sort of decisions around standards? And it might actually be something I think we end up pushing to core devs. So it's less of a community review, even though there will be community participation, and more of something that we confirm, sort of the way we have active FIPS. This is something that has been delayed because I've been sick, so I do apologize. We have talked about this at previous core dev calls also. So hopefully we can get something soon. And once I'm able to push something, I will circulate it with all of you, because I would love your feedback in particular, especially around the specification of where we actually draw the line for what can and should be standardized. So I'm glad we ended up having this chat today. Anything else? I think we're near time, but we still have a couple of minutes if anyone has any other topics. I think we've had some really good conversations today, which is always refreshing. All right. Well, if there's nothing, then we are at the end of our meeting. Again, thank you guys so much for participating. Raul, thanks for coming and being oh so helpful as always. Josh, thanks for joining. Welcome to the team, I suppose, the broader Filecoin ecosystem. I think we're all going to be in touch quite a bit over the next couple of weeks, as always. But if you have any questions or needs, you're welcome to DM me for help or just flag them in the Phil Implementers channel. And otherwise, I will see all of you again in 2 weeks. All right, thanks everyone. Bye.